call the meeting back to order. Starting with the regular calendar, R3, legislative update and report from supervisors. Mr. Lees.
Thank you. Very quickly, as it relates to our county platform legislatively and budget-wise, I feel that I need to give a very quick, we're in the last hours, days of this legislative cycle. We're in constant contact with Sacramento on what's going on there. There's a lot of things flying through at the last minute, so we're keeping our eye on them and making sure that there's nothing that is going to upset the apple cart too much. Understand that still being discussed as we speak today, some type of workers' comp reform as well as pension reform. And unfortunately, we're not sure what that looks like yet. There's some disputes going on between what labor would support on a statewide level and what the governor's office will support. So we're continuing to watch that. There is the potential of increasing our cost. I think more significantly is the controller's report on the revenue that's being received. As of July 31st, the revenue or the cash that had come in for that month was $475 million below what was projected. So that was about $500 million less than what they had planned in this year's budget. The significance of that is, first of all, I don't know that we need to get excited to say the economy is going back down, because it's not. The problem is we know that the state was very optimistic. Thank you. Optimistic about what they expected the numbers to come in at. But the fact that they're $500 million short just in the month of July does not bode well for where we're headed as it relates to the dollars. That means that we're $18 billion. This deficit gap now is about $18 billion. We're not talking about how much debt the state's in. We're just talking about this year's budget. It's $18 billion. And currently, the majority of that is being covered by borrowing from internal funds, special funds, things that are actually designated for other, like mental health monies and things like that. They're borrowing that money, and then they'll pay it back when things get better. Mm-hmm. That's an $18 billion gap that they now have to pay back. And we're not in a position to see that revenue changing so much that they're going to be able to do that. So I'm very concerned about that, because as you've heard today, some sentiment about the potential for additional sales tax. As you know, a big part of this budget, of the governor's budget, is going to be based on Prop 30, which is an increase in sales tax statewide. And if that sales tax does not go through, then we know that there are going to be trigger cuts that come into play. So we're already $500 million. The sales tax is going to give us another $6 billion, and we're already going to be halfway through this year's fiscal budget before they realize that they have the potential to be this short. So it could be creating significant problems for counties, because typically we know, and education in this case, but typically we know that's where the state comes back to balance their budget, as what they did with Prop 109, which, don't be misled. That's about balancing budget. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. We'll start with Supervisor Kehoe.
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Given the lateness of the hour, I'm going to be brief. Yesterday afternoon, Chairman Modi and myself and Mr. Lees and all the members of the Executive Committee attended a AB 109 workshop at the City of Reading. It was a little over 3 hours. I thought it was well done, well organized, great presentation by Mr. Foreman and Sheriff Brasinko. It was productive and educational. Thank you.
Supervisor Baugh.
And he hesitates. A couple of informational items from the rural counties of Representatives of California. It's hard to get used to saying a new name there. Comparisons on the proposed budget are the ballot measures. As Mr. Lees was just explaining, I've provided these to all of you, plus a few extra if there are any members of the public that want them. The next sheet, the reason I've supplied this is it shows the makeup of RCRC, and for us as supervisors, it's good to know who we need to contact on various issues when we have questions. I've also made some more copies available to the public. And I would note that RCRC still continues to do well financially. The portion that the counties pay, now 32 strong, one recent county added, accounts for just under 5% of the entire budget. The rest of that money comes through a very profitable business plan that not only pays for the legislative analysts that we need and advocates on our behalf, but it keeps us from having to pay that bill. We could not afford to do this on our own, and so we are the beneficiaries of that wisdom from past boards. I want to mention two issues that are of importance, and they've been mentioned in one fashion already today, partially anyway. SB 885, the septic tank and well issue, this board has strongly opposed that from the very inception, and I don't think that has changed at all. It's now been approved in terms of the tier process, and that does in part take away from the immediate harm on all of the residents in rural Shasta County. They can go on and they're subject to Shasta County regulations now, and they don't have to change that. But here's the challenge. Now that that tier program has been approved, it goes to the regional control boards, and those boards now can enact anything that they want to based upon the foundation that was approved in the tier system. So what I'm suggesting is that this board exercise its authority over staff to say, hold the line. I know the board will, but we need to be in constant contact, attend all meetings, both as elected officials and as our paid employees, and hold the line and say, no, we will not accept any more changes, period. And if they begin to make such changes, we go back and do the same thing we did again, which is to basically oppose it in every way, shape, and form. The other item was at the request of Supervisor Haas, and I think probably confirmed by the whole board. I did take to RCRC to see if I could get some traction on taking a look at national forest management practices, and a lot of counties bought into that request because there are fires everywhere in Northern California, to take a look at their post-burn policies and their pre-burn policies, the management of the forests, and especially in the area of let it burn in the middle of a hot tinderbox of a climate. There wasn't anybody in the room that was appreciative of the let it burn policy. If it were in the middle of winter, I don't think we would have this conversation, but it wasn't. And then the other policy of simply letting it set on the forest floors and rot. I think every county there, even the ones without forests in them, were open to the possibility of looking at salvage logging and at least good practices rather than simply being accepting of what's happening today. I think the counties are getting tired of this. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Hartman.
I'll pass today, thank you.
Supervisor Haas.
A couple of things. I earlier talked about the exclusion. That exclusion would bypass the NEPA process, which usually takes the Forest Service a year to a year and a half, and then the timber's no good. So we need to push for that. I mean, I'm not sure it can be done, but it won't hurt to try. And then the other issue, I just wondered if all of you received your MOA with the Forest Service and BLM from CSAC and the rural counties. This came in the mail. Did you all get one? Good.
I did.
Good. Yeah, good.
If I can tag on to that.
Go ahead.
On behalf of the board, Shasta County voted against the MOA
They did?
because it erodes our very strong position of using coordination to work with the forest, at least the potential. I also needed to mention, I forgot, the SRA fees, also known as taxes. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, possibly by today, has a banner up on their website asking rural residents who receive the bills to join with them in potential lawsuits. So if we can get that information out as well. I did not have the time to check to see if it was actually on their website yet, but we were promised they would have a banner and a go-to site for the information.
Anything else?
Well, I could.
Just checking. I will say I also attended the workshop, as Supervisor Keogh mentioned, and I will probably reserve my comments for a discussion on R7.
One more thing.
Yes, sir.
I did attend the briefing up at Old Station on Saturday night, and Miss Kuntz from the parks took full responsibility for that fire getting away. And I don't know exactly what that means yet, but she got up in front of everybody and said, it was totally my call, and she led us to believe that she made a mistake, and I think she did. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you. We'll move on to R4. Consider providing direction to staff regarding approving the proposed procedure to fill the vacancy for the elected audit controller by appointment, effective December 31st, 2012.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Lees.
Thank you. Chairman Modi, members of the board, as you know, we have received our a letter from our auditor controller, Ms. Connie Regnell, letting us know that she is about to enter the second chapter of her life as she spends more time with the grandkids and family. And with that comes an opportunity for the Board of Supervisors to go forward on a recruitment process in filling her position, if it can be filled. With that being said, there are some legal ramifications and certainly obligations, and so what you have before you is a plan that we're proposing that complies with all laws as a way that we can get in there and fill that position. Now, keep in mind that we're talking about you filling that position for just the remainder of her term, which is about 2 years. So I'll open it, looking for the board to go forward on that. If you have any questions, I'll certainly be happy to answer those.
Well, certainly a chance for questions. I also have one request to speak. All right. Dolores Lucero.
Hi, my name is Dolores Lucero. This is becoming a habit, you know. I actually have a concern regarding that position. I do believe that there is some laws that we have to follow to, instead of appointing somebody, we need to elect somebody. I had to go get my book from my car in regarding some of the laws that applies to these kind of positions. And some of the, I do believe the citizens have a right to elect somebody instead of the board appointing, because it does become a little bit of a conflict there, because there's some laws that you might consider to looking into. It's all the laws under the Attorney General. So I do believe that you need to follow through that before you make any decisions.
Thank you, Ms. Lucero. Mr. Keel, do you want to speak first? I'm going to ask Mr.
Yeah,
Cruz.
that's fine.
Mr. Cruz, if you could speak to this matter.
Okay.
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman Modi. Essentially, the way the government code is written is that the Board of Supervisors shall fill by appointment a vacancy in an elected office, which is what we have here today. The Attorney General has also interpreted the law and issued a formal opinion that says that the board does not have the power to call a special election. The only power that is available to the board is to appoint someone for the remainder of the existing term.
So I think that might answer that question specifically. Thank you. Any other questions?
And Mr. Cruz, for the benefit of the speaker, would you cite the government code section, please?
Certainly. The government code section that calls for an appointment is Government Code Section 25304. The Attorney General opinion that says that a special election is not available is volume 57 of the opinions of the California Attorney General on page 149, issued back in 1974.
Thank you.
Supervisor Baugh.
Thank you, Chair Modi. Mr. Lees, absent from this report is the subject brought up through the recent Record Searchlight editorial, the possibility of looking at consolidation of departments. I'm wondering if that was thought through in the creation of this report.
We have considered that, and I'm not sure, I know the article you're talking about, and I'm not sure if that was about consolidation or more about changing the authority from the position to being from an elected position to an appointed position, not the replacement process of what
It
Mr.
could be and/or, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the replacement process here in this interim period of midterm, but it appeared to me, because I did look that up, and it looked like there is an ability to take to the people the opportunity to have an elected position changed to an appointed position, so that even regular term it will never be an elected position. If you recall, the city of Reading was entertaining that at one point. It was something that wasn't wildly popular here within Shasta County. Folks wanted to have that, continue with that ability. So now to your next question. So yes, we do have that option. We thought about it. I did not believe it would be wildly popular here either. And so we elected not to have that. But we still have to go forward with this. We have 2 years. Actually, we have about a year to make that other decision if you would like to entertain having that an appointed position rather than an elected position. And that is something that would have to go to the people for a special election.
I merely wanted to bring up the issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Haas.
Well, I believe this was tried another time, a few years back, and it failed, so.
Move approval of the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Moved and seconded. And I just want to just clarify one more time on our discussion. I think it was a very important point that you made, Mr. Lees, and also Mr. Cruz, is that state law does not authorize us to have a special election. So clearly it's spelled out what our path is. There are no options. It's just a clear-cut path.
Yes, that's correct.
You have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item R5, amendment